During the Cold War, as the United States was promoting democracy throughout the world and experiencing a booming economy, more and more Americans will start demanding equal rights, especially groups that have been previously denied equality under the law. If you remember from the previous lectures, there's a term for this: the revolution of rising expectations. It's why social movements occur in good economies, not generally bad economies. Usually when there is a bad economy, equal rights movements fall to the background, because then people are worried about how are we going to survive. So a growing number of Americans will start demanding equal rights, and this includes a lot of groups. But for this class, we are going to be focusing on just two: African Americans and women. It's not that the other groups are not important. And in all survey level classes, we have to oversimplify a lot of things. I will say this one is particularly difficult to simplify, but these two are the main focus because of two very good reasons. One, African Americans are the group that has had the most laws passed specifically to keep them oppressed. We'll come back to this. And the African American civil rights movement will also be the blueprint for a lot of the other social movements. And in terms of women, it is the largest social movement in human history because it includes the largest part of the population. And of course, the women's movement also includes Black women, Mexican women, and every other group. So we will only be focusing on these two, unfortunately. Not to say the other ones aren't important, but if you'd like to know more about them, it's when you take upper level history classes. There's a really important concept you need to know, though, before we get into this, and that is tribalism. Humans only survived and dominated over other species because we formed tribes. Most of human existence is human in tribes, and our brains are so hardwired for tribalism that it explains quite a lot of human behavior, especially irrational behavior. Tribes, throughout most of human existence, we are part of tribes in competition with other tribes for a limited amount of resources. It is not until 1870s that we started having an abundance of resources, especially food. And so that tribalism is a really important part of our brains for several reasons. Now, tribalism in psychology, it's called in-group, out-group bias, is a cognitive bias that explains why we prefer those we perceive as similar to us or part of our group as compared to outsiders or others. And this has several implications. First and foremost, throughout all of human history, if you were kicked out of the tribe, that means death. So to this day, that's why when you, for example, ask someone out and they say no, and you get this feeling like, oh, I'm going to die. That's what that is. That's your brain reverting back to that feeling of like, the rejection. I'm going to die now. So high schoolers, young people experience it a lot more than older people, but that rejection sensitivity that we feel is our physiological response, because having a tribe, it has a lot of benefits. And positive form of tribalism is community. Places in the world where people regularly live over 100 years old, called blue zones. Those are, one thing they have in common is strong sense of community, like the Seventh-day Adventists out in, I think it's California, and a lot of places in Asia, some places in Mediterranean. Yeah, they have communities. That's one common feature. And the opposite, if you don't have a community, if you don't have a tribe, that is one of the most mentally, physically, and emotionally difficult things humans experience. The United States is experiencing a loneliness epidemic. The Surgeon General said that's his biggest concern, because when we are lonely, people that describe themselves as lonely, it has such negative health consequences that it is equivalent to smoking about 14 cigarettes a day. It leads to decreased cognitive functioning. It's been proven people that are lonely don't sleep as well. They wake up constantly throughout the night because they understand, I don't have a group to protect me. And so their sleeping is disrupted. Lack of sleep leads to all sorts of other problems. So that's the first thing, is humans hate the feeling of rejection from their tribe. So, second significance of this is, therefore, humans will do just about anything to stay in a tribe. They will do anything to form group cohesion. And this is where the really irrational human behavior especially comes in. Humans will reject reality in order to make reality conform to their tribe and to their tribe's views. Because if you're part of a tribe and you do not conform to what the tribe believes, then there's a good chance they'll kick you out. So there have been psychological studies where they'll take someone and they'll have them like look at a series of lines. There's one obviously longer, and say which one's longer, and they'll accurately say that one's longer. Then they'll take the same person and put him in a group with 4 other people. So there's 5 of them. 4 of them are actors, and they all say the wrong answer. That person will, it's like half the time, say the wrong answer just to conform to the tribe. And so when you hear people that are just completely rejecting reality, that's what they're doing, is they've found a tribe, they've decided which tribe is right, and they are trying to fit reality into their tribe. That's why there's never been a political party or a political ideology or any ideology that's right 100% of the time. And so that's where a lot of irrational behavior comes from, is trying to fit the world into your tribe. And third implication, this one's really important, is humans are easily manipulated into tribalism. Our brains want to revert to that. And some of the most fascinating research on this is by a guy named Henry Tajfel. He was a Jew in Poland before World War II. He went over to France and he learned French, and he was able to convince the Germans that he was French and not Polish. And his whole family was killed. All his friends, everyone he loved, ended up dying. And so after World War II, he will study this phenomenon. One of the most famous social psychologists, and his work is truly remarkable, because he will try to randomly and arbitrarily put people into 2 groups, and within a very short period of time, the groups will form tribes and start considering themselves biologically superior to the other ones. So like you can take a group, and this isn't just with, they've done a lot of research with kids, but you can do it with other groups and like adults. Just, say, you can even tell them, I'm arbitrarily assigning you into 2 groups. You're red, you're blue, and within a few weeks, they'll say, look, our group is, we're better looking, we're nicer people, we're smarter, and we'll just start attributing their tribe to being superior to the other ones. And what is really scary about his research, Obviously, people will do whatever they can to promote their tribe, but they will also go out of their way to put other tribes down, even if it doesn't help them. So even if it doesn't benefit them in their tribe, they will go out of their way to make the other tribes' life much more difficult and put them down, because it's that part of the brain saying there's a limited amount of resources and we are in competition. So tribalism is one of the easiest ways to manipulate human beings. There's a Harvard psychologist, a more contemporary one, named Mina Sakara, and she studies this, especially the intergroup empathy gap. It is the enjoyment of seeing harm and pain in other or outside groups. Humans are just so hardwired into this. And it is one of the things that is currently tearing the United States apart, is this tribalism, that we are just so divisive and want to see other groups fail. So it is a really important concept to understand, because it's a little bit of an oversimplification. It's an oversimplification just to say people were racist. No, humans are tribal, because this is not an American thing. This happens all over the world. What constitutes a tribe? Obviously, it can be anything. It can be a religion. It can be a nation. It can be party and political ideology. But the biggest, easiest way is race and ethnicity. And the reason that's the biggest and easiest way is because humans are visual creatures. We have 5 major senses, and more than half of all of the stimuli that we take in comes from our eyes. So when people say, I don't see race, yes, they do. I mean, even if you're colorblind, you see race. Everyone sees race. Doesn't mean everyone's racist, but even in psychology and developmental psychology, babies, by like 3 to 6 months, years old, have a racial preference for people of their same race, because brains are just hardwired like that. So that's a very important concept to understand in order to understand the second Reconstruction in civil rights.